So good morning and welcome to our GWAVA Migration Toolkit webinar again. My name is Thomas Stegemann. I'm the Technical Sales Manager here at GWAVA EMEA, and today I'd like to show you some of the new things of the GWAVA Migration Toolkit and a lot about scenarios and how we can help you in migrating from one to another mail server. So, email migration made easy with the GWAVA Migration Toolkit. We will talk about migration scenarios. We will have a live demo of the Migration Toolkit so that you can see what our toolkit is able to do and even what we can do together with our archiving solution Retain. We will talk about references. We did a few great migrations in the last months, and so I'd like to show you the references, and then I will summarize Migration Made Easy, and we will show you next steps and talk about what's next on our agenda. So the first scenario I'd like to talk about is direct migration. Direct migration from one mail server to the other, from one platform to the other. It is without any archiving solution, so we need to migrate all data, and there is no Retain or other archiving solution in place. So what do you have to do? Which steps do you have to take? First step is to set up the new system. Then you need to install the Migration Toolkit, and you have to check all prerequisites. So that's the first basic steps before anything can be migrated. Then next you have to migrate users from eDirectory to Active Directory. Mail enable the users, migrate the distribution lists. And last but not least, you can migrate the proxy rights. You need to migrate the user data and address books. And you can set forwarding rules in the old system if you change the domain name to forward messages from the old system to the new system. Let me show you all of these in a picture. On the left side you have your mailboxes on the old server. In the middle there is a Migration Toolkit, and on the right side you have your new server. So if you start migrating, the Migration Toolkit is moving user by user over to the new system. And all of this should be done in batches. So batches of 4, 5 users at a time, just to not overload your system, not overload your users, and that the new users can be implemented on the new system. So that is a user by user migration, batch migration of the users. The second scenario is archive plus migration. So if you have a Retain archive in place or install a new Retain archive, then we can only migrate a limited amount of data, and the last step would be a rollout of the client access. So in this scenario, most of the data is stored in the retain archive, and that has one big benefit, because you can offload a lot of data and you can offload old mailboxes, so you don't have to license them on the new system. And interesting enough, we had a big migration about a month ago with around 6,000 users, and they had 900 users which they did not migrate into the new system but offload into retain. So they saved on the new system about 900 licenses. So again, what do you have to do? Which steps do you have to take? You have to first set up the GWAVA retain system. Then you need to install the migration toolkit. Check all requirements. For sure, set up the new system. And next would be to archive all data with GWAVA retain. Archive everything from the old server into retain. Then you need to migrate the users from the E directory to the Active Directory. If you have already an IDM solution in place, you can skip that one for sure. You need to mail enable the users on the new system. And then again, you can migrate the proxy rights and the distribution lists, and you can migrate the user data and address books. So the schema in this scenario is a little bit different, because on the left side you have your user mailboxes on the old server, in the middle you have your retain archive, and now you start to archive, and some of the mailboxes are already moved into the archive and not migrated to the new system. Then you set up your new system, connect it to retain, and you set up the migration toolkit. And now you start to move your users over to the new system. This is great because you can do a big amount of users in a relatively short time frame. So the customer I just talked about has migrated 5,000 users from GroupWise to Exchange. It wasn't even Exchange, it was Office 365 in 1 weekend. The only issue was that they had 30 mailboxes left on Monday morning, but then their internet connection went down, so they had a problem with the last 30 mailboxes, but that was not because of the migration toolkit. But they migrated 5,000 users with 90 days of data in 1 weekend. And then you can shut down your old server, you can uninstall the migration toolkit, and you can work with your new server. The users have now access to the retain archive, can search there, can restore data if they need another mail or another appointment or whatever. And even with the new Outlook plugin, they can get data and take it with them on their notebooks. The third scenario is a new mail server. If you, for example, migrate from Exchange 2010 to Exchange 2013, you're not able to just update the old server. You have to install a new server and then migrate the data over into the new server. So with an archiving solution in this case in place, a third-party archiving solution, and mail server migration is a lot easier because you can reduce your mailbox storage size, and because of that it is a lot faster to migrate the data, the mailboxes, over to the new server. So first, set up GWAVA retain, archive all data with GWAVA retain, and delete unused mailboxes. And second, clean up the mailboxes and delete old data. Then migrate mailboxes to the new server and roll out the Web Access or Outlook plugin. How does it look like? It looks a little bit similar to the second scenario, but now we will offload some users into retain. Then set up the new server. Don't connect it to retain. Migrate the users from one mail server to the other. Connect the new one to retain. And shut down the old mail server. So now let's go to a live demo of the Mailbox migration, the Outlook plugin, and the Retain web interface. I will now switch to my client here, and you see I've already opened the User Migrator. The User Migrator is the tool to migrate the users from the E directory to the Active Directory, to match the user mailboxes from one side to the other side so that you can move data over, and also to create the forwarding rules in groupwise so that the mails can be forwarded from groupwise to Exchange if you change the domain names. On the Exchange side, if you export them, we can create the distribution lists, which are groups in Exchange, and this is new. We have moved it from the email migrator to the user migrator, migrate the proxy rights for the users. It's the same for Office 365. We can create the distribution lists there and migrate the proxy rights. I don't want to use this tool now because it's taking a little bit longer, but I want to show you how fast the email migrator can be. So I started, go to configuration, and now I load my saved configuration. Okay, what do I have to set? First is the group-wise settings. So where is my SOAP port, the post office port, host and port, the trusted application key. For Exchange, I have to set the Active Directory domain controller host, which can be a domain name as well, the domain controller port. The impersonation user you have to create like it is for Retain himself, and the password as well as the Exchange domain, the search domain, and the EWS URL. Then you can say, okay, I want to run a number of concurrent migrations with this migration toolkit. I can set auto email translation. The auto email translation will translate, if you change your domain name, it will translate the old domain name, the old email address to the new one, so that even after the migration you can do a reply all on messages, and you're able to send it out to all of your colleagues. Then there is a user list. This is a merged file from the user migrator. So merged means eDirectory and Active Directory users are merged in one file, combined, so that they can be migrated. On the migration criteria, you can define if you want to archive a limited amount of data, if you want to limit the folders, or even limit the attachment size for the migrated data. And on the other tab, you can select the migration of address books and also frequent contacts from GroupWise. So now I save it and say, okay, load the user list. Now you can do select all, or you can just say, okay, I want to migrate Gustav Johansson, Harry Modal, Jason Blocks, John Doe, Jan and Julia. Okay, selected 6 ones, and then you just hit start, and you now see that the first 3 started connecting to GroupWise, connecting to target mailbox, and now it's starting to migrate messages over from the old system to the new system. Some are faster, some are a little bit slower, depending on the mailbox size, for sure. And you see it is really fast in migrating data. And after the first one is finished, it will be directly going to the address books and then moving forward with the next mailboxes. Okay, now you see done, 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 and starting the next ones. Okay, that can run in the background, and I will switch to Outlook and the new Retain plugin. So just to show you how fast it is in downloading data, now says no messages found. I will clear the local archive. Okay. And I will download mails, notes, tasks from about 3 years and up to 1,000 messages. And now let's download messages from Retain, archived from Retain to my local storage, so that if you have implemented a Retain as an archiving solution, you have migrated the users over from the old to the new server, and then you have granted them access to the Outlook plugin, which can be rolled out with parameters so that you can install it silently. The users have access to their Retain archive. So now you see 944 messages downloaded, and I have my, in this case, Retain summary reports. Oh, there is a tech channel without any pictures. Let's see, okay. And there are some other messages. And also you can do a direct search. I want to search for IT white papers because I'm a IT guy and I want to search for everything which is newer than the 1st January 2009 and older than today. Okay, again, press search. It will search for everything in the Retain archive, everything in your mailbox. So in this case, you are only able with the plugin to access your mailbox, meaning your Exchange mailbox and the data archived from Exchange. If you need to have access to your old GroupWise mailbox, it's easy. Just press the Launch Retain button. You will be redirected to the web page, and because Retain also merges the users from GroupWise and Exchange, in this case you can just switch over the mailbox view from Exchange to the old GroupWise mailbox and switch back. And in this case you can search over all mailboxes where you have access to, meaning in this case you have a GroupWise mailbox and an Exchange mailbox. Or you just select all mailboxes, and then again you can search for IT white papers, and you will see that in this case it will be a few from the administrator's mailbox, and then there will be also some which come out of the mailbox admin migrated messages, so you're able to find everything from both sides. Okay, we've now shown you the mailbox migration, the Outlook plugin from Retain, and also the Retain web interface and how easy it is to migrate data, implement an Outlook plugin, and grant the users access to an archiving solution. And now I come to the references. The customer I've talked about, the 5,000 user or 6,000 user migration with implementation of an archiving solution, was Amaport Reynade, a healthcare organization in the Netherlands. and they did the migration in 1 weekend. 5,000 users from GroupWise to Office 365, and by the way, implemented an archiving solution. The implementation of the archiving solution was done a few weeks before the actual migration, but the migration was done in 1 weekend. And we have another reference, which is the Ritz London. The Ritz London, the famous hotel, has integrated Retain a while ago, and then they decided to migrate from GroupWise to Exchange, and also did that with our migration toolkit. So they are a very happy customer too with our archiving solution and migration. The summary. Migration made easy. It is barrier-free migration. You can migrate the data really easy over from GroupWise to Exchange, or implement an archiving solution and migrate old versions to a new version of Exchange. Even big migrations can be done in a relatively short time frame, even on a weekend. A big bang scenario is no longer a problem. You can do that in 1 weekend for a relatively big amount of users. We have multi-threading in the migration toolkit for a great throughput of mailboxes and messages. By the way, you can implement an enterprise archiving solution, and there are discounts for the migration toolkit if you implement Retain at the same time. And by the way, be compliant. You can install an archiving solution, migrate, and be compliant in 1 way. So now I'd like to thank you all for your time, and if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat. Send me questions afterwards. You see my email address, and call me if you need anything or any more information.